Mishlei 1925. Leitz take ufesi yarim v'hochef l'navon yavin das. Okay, so we started translating it as you will strike a scoffer. Okay, now you translated Pesi as a fool, so it is a type of fool, but what would be the more nuanced translation?
Simpleton.
Yeah, so I think Arthur likes going with simpleton. I like going with like naive simpleton, even though most simpletons are naive. But I just want the word Pesi comes from like itoi, like seduced. So you want to get an idea in there of like that his mind is manipulated. So either naive or gullible. Okay, so you what was it?
Naivete.
Naivete. Yeah. So you strike a scoffer, and we'll say naive simpleton. Yarim. So arum does mean naked, but it also means cunning. Yeah. Will become cunning. Okay. I don't think naked fits here. V'hochiach l'navon yavin das. That's what I meant. Funny how that's like supplanted like Adam and Chava in God association.
Well, it's the hitting on nakedness.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. V'hochiach l'navon yavin das.
And rebuke the discerning person.
Yeah.
Is discernment.
Okay. So I'm gonna let's see. So rebuke to I'm just gonna say Navon for now. Rebuke to Navon, Yavin das. Will understand knowledge. Yeah. Okay. So that's that. Yeah. So Mitzvah Sion just says Yarim is Milashon Orma is just from the expression of cunning. Okay, fine. Sladigon says Kamosha Kasher Taka es Halet Viet Pakeach Mipituyo Mipituso. Is that what yours says? Yeah. Pa Kasher Tokio es Hanav Yavin Das. Okay, so that's a different translation actually. I didn't realize this when I was typing it. So what does he think? Kamosha Kasher Taka es Halet Viet Pakeach Mipituso.
Just like when you hit a Leitz, he's going to the
the opposite of like I mean is another word for like cunning.
Oh, okay. He'll become cunning in his naivete.
So I think he will become cunning out of his naivete. It sounds like he's saying that the Leitz is the one who has the naivete, not the. He seems to like edit out the Pesi. I think so. I can't say that word. PTU so right. That sounds like the side of the Leitz. Yeah. So and it sounds like it's saying that you are making him cunning, right? When just like how when you hit a scoffer, it will make him cunning out of his naivete, I guess. Oops, I typed this wrong. Is Yavin you guys have there? Yeah, Yavin, Yavin das. So too, when you rebuke a Navon, he will understand knowledge. Yeah. Okay, so that's a strange one. I'm not partial to that, but we'll just keep it in case. Just because Pesi and first of all, the pasuk says Leitz and Pesi, so it's two different people, and like Leitz is not someone who has psoriasis, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, Targum. I'm not in the mood to do today. Yeah. Okay. So the English ones say Article says strike a scoffer and the simpleton grows clever. Chastise an understanding person, he will understand, and then in brackets even more knowledge. Living Knox says strike the scoffer and the naive will become clever. Rebuke the discerning, he will understand knowledge. Alter says beat the scoffer and the dupe. The dupe becomes shrewd. Rebuke the discerning and he gains knowledge. Okay, fine, those are all good. And then we're gonna do something different today because it's the week before Pesach. Look at Rashi even before we do anything. Leitz Pake Pesi Yarim. Al Makot Paro Milchames Amalek. Okay. Heftim Yisro V'nis Gayer. So about the plagues of Paro and the war of Amalek, Yisro widened himself, became wise, and converted. Yeah. So Rashi is not giving us a perush, but he's giving us an example, right? So he's saying that in this case, the Leitz would be, I guess, Paro and Mitzrayim, presumably, and Amalek, and then Yisro is the Navon. So we'll just keep that in the back of our mind. Yeah. Okay.
It's on theme.
What was that?
I said, wow, it's all the thing.
Yeah, that was a good coincidence there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what are the questions here? Obviously, a lot of definition questions.
What's going on in the first half of these two people?
Yeah, so let's get all the definition questions out of the way first. What is a Leitz?
Yeah.
What is a Pesi? What is a Navon?
What is coming?
What's cunning? Okay, let me just put that in order here. What is Orma?
What is the hitting and rebuke?
Yeah. So what is I'll just say what is the difference between hitting and rebuke, because even though we will have to define them, I think we do have, like, it's not that we don't know what they are. Like hitting, we assume hitting is literal, and then rebuke is also literal.
Yeah. Physical versus verbal.
Versus what?
Verbal.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, right.
I thought you said rhetorical, which would also be true. What does it mean that the Navon will understand Das? What Das, right? Yeah. Okay, so I realized, like, right before I left the apartment, that what we might have to do is we have not done. Okay, we didn't do it in any of our pasukim, the Leitz, but I remember we did this the week before Sukkos, because this is when Trump got COVID, and we went through the Rabbeinu Yonah on Leitz and Pesi. So I thought that we might have to review that, would not be a bad idea. And I don't even remember how in depth we went. I remember we read the Rabbeinu Yonah, but I don't remember if we read both Rabbeinu Yonahs. But yeah, but. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it's good to review this anyway, because we haven't done either the Leitz or the Pesi in any of our pasukim.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So let's review. Yeah. Okay. I mean, well, I think this makes a good place. It's a good place to start with these definitions, simply because we can't really extract them all from here, and I think it's excusable to get the definitions from elsewhere in this case. Yeah. Okay. So special Rabbeinu Yonah packet, yeah. Okay, so what we have here, I should put this on the screen. Okay, Rabbeinu Yonah. Okay, so this is Rabbeinu Yonah on one of the introductory pasukim in Mishlei, which is, hold on, 122. Okay, and this is like where the trio, the gang of fools is introduced. Okay, so this is in the context is Chachma is calling out to these people. So on the Chaf Beis, Ad Masai Pesaim Te'ehavu Pesi. How long you naive simpletons will you love Pesi? And Pesi here is I think everyone says Pesi is a noun. Is like not your naivete. How long will you love your naivete? V'leitzim latzon chamdulhem, and scoffers desire or covet mockery for themselves, chamdu, uksilim yitnudat, and fools feeling hate knowledge. Okay, yeah. So he's just going to define them. So I think our approach here will be, let's just read and try to understand his definitions. Okay, and again, we've read this before, but it's been like almost exactly 6 months. Yeah. So, okay. Ad Masai Pesai, Ad Masai Pesai Gomer. Pesi Shem Davar, Kamo Pesai. Okay, so Pesi here is a noun. Kamo Pesai. It means naivete. Shekel base Mary. Okay, fine. Pesayim Haim Anashim. So who are Pesayim? They are men or women. Shem Haluche Hadas, who are weak-minded. Okay, and again, weak-minded here, I think, is weak in their psyche, not in intelligence. Okay, I mean, these guys are going to be weak in their intelligence also, but you'll see what he means. Haluche Hadas, v'niftim l'divrei mesisim umatim, and they are seduced by the words of the enticers and the errors, those who cause people to err. Okay, so these are susceptible people who are susceptible to other people's rhetoric. And similarly included in naive simpletons, anashim asher lahem deos mishubashos are people who have. Now, I think deos is not like Ram deos. I think this is like ideas. So they have confused ideas. And also people whose desires confuse and lead their path astray, or lead them astray from the path. Okay, then he elaborates. And we'll go back and summarize after you get the definition. You'll find some people, you'll see some people, you'll see people a lot of people, who think about something that they have a desire in, that it is good and proper, and they don't see any liability for their taiva, meaning that they want something, and because they want it, then they don't see any consequences, and they think it's good, meaning that their mind influences their judgment of the thing and the judgment of the consequence. Okay, and all of this is due to the weakness of their intellect. Okay, so now he says weakness of intellect, and the dalalu is another word for weakness, like dal, and the weakness of their faculties of understanding. So this sounds like an intellectual deficiency also. Al Kain, therefore, therefore their desires draw them towards it, and it blinds their eyes. All these people, if they were to not be dominated by their desires, and if they were not to be drawn after them, then their minds would not be confused. So in other words, what it means is, it might be that they have a certain intellectual weakness, but the point is that the thing that screws them up is not it's not a mistake from the intellect. It's because they're drawn into their taivas that messes up their thinking. That if they weren't drawn into their taivas, then their intellectual handicap would not lead them astray. I mean, they're not like thinkers, but the thing that is veering them off the derech is their taivas, not their mind.
Yeah. And their mind isn't able to.
Correct, because their mind is also not strong. Yeah.
If they didn't have the taivas, then they would just be okay.
So they wouldn't necessarily be okay, but there would be nothing, the inertia, they would have a certain inertia of not going off track. The thing that makes them go off track is their taivas. Okay. And the other thing also is that they would be receptive to the truth and to the good path, because just as they are, I'll give, okay, actually, let's just hold on for a moment. I just want to finish the paragraph, then we'll have a more complete picture. V'gam eleh hanashim, all of these people, I just read that. Al-Kain, right? The Al-Kain Amruzal, kol hamispate b'yitra nofa b'gehenam. Anyone who is seduced by his own inclination goes to hell, right? Nofa b'gehenam. Shneimar ve'eleka tusho kosov ata timshal bo. As it says in Bereshis, you will be its desire, and you will conquer it. You may conquer it. Ki yetzer lef adam ra. Okay, because the inclination of a person's heart is bad. And it demands things of him. And it yearns for him to give it whatever his eyes desire. Okay, this is the key phrase. This is the cognitive behavior therapy premise of the Rabbeinu Yonah, stated in the most explicit terms I've ever seen. I just lost place. The ain biyad hayetzer lamalos tishu katso below haskamas hanefesh hamaskelas v'rayona. The yetzer, the inclination, does not have the ability to fulfill its desire without the consent of the rational soul and its thought, which means that unlike an animal that can purely give into its desires, a human being has a rational soul and an animal soul. And when you give into your desires, you don't give into it without warping your thinking. So he's taking a firm stance on the fact that, you have that machlokas in the philosophers about, is it possible to know that something is bad and to still do it? Or when you do something bad, then you are warping your mind to think that it's good. And he's firmly taking a side on that. That it's impossible to say, I know it's bad, but I am giving into my taivas. No, once you give into your taivas, that itself makes you think it's good in a certain way. Now, obviously, it's not going to totally override your thoughts, because you still like, will, intellectually realize that it's bad, but you are corrupting your intellect when you give into your taivas. Yeah. Okay, so that's his. Oh, sorry. No, one more sentence. And this is the idea of you may conquer it. As it says, towards your man is your desire, and he will rule over you. That's by Adam Tava. I don't know what he's getting at there. And that's why the soul is punished when it gives into the will of the taiva. So that's interesting. That sounds like a more metaphysical point, but he's saying that I guess theoretically the nafkamina is, if it were possible for man to just give into a taiva without affecting his rational soul, then God would not punish the rational soul, because he didn't do anything. He just got overwhelmed. But because giving into your rational soul requires the consent of your giving into your taiva involves the contempt of your rational soul, then your rational soul is culpable. Yeah, it's really a lot of implications there. I feel like yeah. But okay, so this is just a little side history here. This I believe was the first Rabbeinu Yonah I ever read, and I heard it in the context of Rabbi Moskowitz here. And I remember Rabbi Moskowitz. This is like when I was still in high school, and I think Rabbi Moskowitz he always called Rabbeinu Yonah the psychologist of Mishlei. I mean, the detail with which he goes into this personality, it's a really vivid picture that's really like rich. And this is why I want to do this here, because it's like, it's Pesi's not just a naive simpleton. There's a lot more going on there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a person who's on a horse that's on a path.
Yeah.
And the horse isn't going to just randomly walk off the path. It's just going to keep walking. It's really a person who doesn't have control of it.
Yeah.
So the horse is just going to walk along the path. But if it sees something, it wants to eat, it's just going to go and eat it. And the guy's not going to be able to stop.
Yeah. Yes, the Pesi horse. I was going to say that. What was I going to say? Hold on just a second here. Okay, was there a question that someone was going to ask earlier, and I said we should finish the paragraph?
Yes.
Did you have a specific question? Or you just
I don't think so.
okay.
I was going to say about the horse.
Okay, yeah. Well, I had a point I wanted to make about. Oh yeah. So my working definition of the Pesi, if like you asked me in one sentence, well actually, I'll ask you in one sentence. How do you define the Pesi based on this?
Are we allowed to use semicolons liberally?
Dictionary definition. Like, what's the essence of everything he's saying here? And if you can define it in a way that differentiates him from other fools, then that's even better. Because a lot of times when you try to define a Mishlei fool, then it sounds like you could apply that to other Mishlei fools. So very good differentiation. Yeah.
I guess not in control of his animal soul, and so his animal soul is able to overcome his rational soul.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, it's definitely a core component here.
And I'd say without a specific character flaw.
Okay, that's also good. Yeah.
Like he's not like lazy.
Yeah.
Or like, he doesn't like hate knowledge.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
Right, he's not bad. He just
Misled.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to take a stab? Now that everyone else has. Because I got mine, but I don't want to say it yet.
Yeah. I mean, right. I guess it's just like, not only does he not have control over his taivas, but it's just, I guess maybe because his taivas are excessively strong.
Yeah.
So that, that's basically.
See, but that's interesting because he doesn't. Nowhere does Rabbeinu Yonah say that his taiva is stronger than any other person.
Right.
Right. It's just that he doesn't have the ability to resist it
Right.
as much. Yeah.
What I was gonna I didn't really have a question before, but I just remember what I was saying before, which is like, we were saying that it's just like the fact that he has this taiva and like he can't be fully aware of it or control it, so
Yeah.
it just kind of overcomes him.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, if there wasn't taiva, then he would be okay.
Yeah.
And what was the point? It wasn't taiva. Then right, I guess if there wasn't taiva, he would like walk the path, but like very mindlessly.
Yeah. He doesn't have the ability to direct himself with his own mind yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Meaning it would just be like almost like a state of neutrality, which is like, in a sense, better, but also in a sense not really better.
So this really, speaking of the state of neutrality, and this personality we didn't go into, but this is really the difference between the Pesi and the Na'ar. The Na'ar is the Mishlei of youth. Both of them are at a point where they're not developed, but the Na'ar is a true neutral in the sense that he doesn't have this handicap.
But there's still potential to develop.
Yeah, and the Pesi has the potential, but he has a handicap. So do you want to? Okay, so the way I like to think of the Pesi, and I've tried to revisit this, and it still stays true. So I'm going to say it again. Is the Pesi's handicap is that he's susceptible to the worldview of if it feels good, it is good.
Right.
you know. And you could say the corollary, you could say two corollaries, which Rabbeinu Yonah doesn't say explicitly, but I think I think it would follow. If it feels bad, it is bad. I think he's also susceptible to that. And if it feels true, it is true. And if it feels false, it is false. But the essence, though, is if it feels good, it is good. And that's that line I highlighted, that his intellect view of the good and what's good and proper and what has consequences and doesn't have consequences is utterly at the hands of his own yetzer, and that's why he's called a Pesi. He's seduced by his own yetzer, and that's what makes him susceptible to other people. Like, it's true that people can manipulate him, like Rabbeinu Yonah said earlier, but the essence is not that he's when we say gullible in English, we mean that you are manipulable by others. He's manipulable by others because he's manipulable by himself, by his own taivas. He's mispate b'yitro. Literally, he is seduced by his own inclination. And the seduction is the key thing, because the seduction is a warped idea of what the good is. You're lured into thinking something is good when it's really not good, and he's doing that on his own.
Just based on the feeling.
Just based on the feeling, yeah. And this is why I mean, the Rabbeinu is going to say this later on. This is why he is the Pesi is one of the audiences of Mishlei, because if you get him under the influence of a Shlomo HaMelech, then you can guide him on the right path and help him to overcome this. Unlike many other fools in Mishlei, which he's also going to talk about, who are resistant. The Pesi doesn't have any resistance necessarily, you know? Yeah, right. He might have, if his desire is leading him in one way, that is a resistance, but it's not an intrinsic resistance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and I guess like what you were saying before, that it'll be hard for him to accept the truth, meaning because of the fact that he's doing like what feels good is good.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of times in order to get to the truth, that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
So if someone says something that's like based on an emotional argument or something that feels nice,
Yeah.
oh, well, that must be true.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Okay, right. So then this leads to the next question, which is, so how do you reach the Pesi based on this? And not that there's only one way, but what would you say based on this definition? What would be ways to reach him?
Well, I guess one way would be show him that this will feel good.
Yes, right. And if you're trying to get him on the right path,
Yeah.
show him that this will feel good. Yeah.
Start with things that will feel good.
Right.
Like guide him towards.
Right. And similarly,
you can show him that something can feel good to be bad.
yeah, if you show him that it feels good to be bad. So because he is swayed by taiva and by the not seeing the consequences, then either you have to show him that if you follow this, then it will lead to something that will feel good, or that it'll be bad. And he is capable of seeing that. It's just that he's so caught up in his taiva that he can't see it right now.
Right. So then wouldn't he still be caught up and not be able to see it once he's done?
So if you can make it real to him, then and to the point where it affects his emotions more than the immediate, then you'll get him. Yeah.
Right, but he's not going to be like he's going to accept what you're.
Yes, and this is why, not to give an explanation of our pasuk, but when you hit the Leitz, then the Pesi becomes cunning. Because he sees, oh, if I do that, then I'm going to get hit. You know, like, and again, we have to understand how that works, but you see that you don't even have to hit the Pesi. You hit the Leitz, and as long as that reaches the Pesi where it's like, oh, I'm going to get hit if I do this, then that could be enough to get him out.
You don't have to understand. You can just like
do
that association.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's where we're gonna have to explore. Also, like, what are the parameters? Yeah.
So is the Pesi part of the audience of Mishlei? I know.
Yes.
Like we all say like the thing because not targeted towards like the Leitz or the feel.
Yeah. So Rabbeinu is going to talk about that right now. Okay. So let's do his definition of Leitz here. And he's going to quote another pasuk, which I also included in the packet, which we can go to later. So Leitzin, okay. Second paragraph. Habozim l'chol davar. They scorn everything. V'loagim labrios, and they mock people. U'madabrim lashon hara, and they speak lashon hara. V'tava hamida hazot mishtei sibot. So this trait comes from two causes. Ha'achat mishorshei midot hanefesh, from the roots of the midot of the soul. So I don't know what he means by the roots of the soul. I think what it means is like it is a primal instinct as opposed to a particular midah. That's what roots are. Like it's like the depth of human nature type thing. Okay. We'll expand on that in a second. Kasher Yisbar pasuk, like it says in the pasuk, Zaid Yahir Leitz Shemo. That's the pasuk we're going to do later. Zaid is someone who's like malicious. Yahir is someone who's haughty. Leitz is his name. V'hasiba hatenis, and the second cause, mitrikas ol shamayim prika gemura, is a complete breaking of the yoke of heaven, or casting off of the yoke of heaven. I mean, so we can speculate on what that means. Actually, we'll read it first, and then you can speculate. And since he does not have the yoke of fear upon him, there's no fear of God. There's no dread of God in his heart. Therefore, his heart is given over into like making fun of people, mocking them, and deriding them. Yeah, what do you think it means when he says that he has no yoke? He's broken from the yoke of heaven, or he has no yoke of heaven.
He doesn't have like a moral conscience.
Yeah, it sounds like a certain type. What were you gonna say, Jeff?
I was gonna say like he sees himself as like everything. So then like if he feels like he doesn't want to do this, then like
yeah, okay, so you're saying that because, so I'm not sure which one's the cause and which one's the effect. Meaning he doesn't have a yoke, whether you call it a moral conscience or a compass or a superego or something like that. Then therefore he is the default like authority or the default arbiter of what is good. Is that the relationship, or did you have something else in mind when you said that he?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Maybe he doesn't have an outside. Yeah, right. There's nothing outside that he defends himself to.
Yeah. This is the Nachash. Is I mean, I'm not saying the Nachash is late, but the Nachash's appeal was Yisem Kelohim Yodei Tovra. You'll be like God's knowers of good and evil, meaning you are the God. You're the one who determines good and evil, so you're not subject to anyone else.
Yeah. So as long as you can rationalize to yourself that whatever it is that you feel, this is good, this is what I have to do, whatever it is, and it's justified because there's nothing else to turn to.
Right.
Just you.
Yeah. That's why it says, and now do not mock, lest your bounds be strengthened. This is a measure for measure, because you cast off the yoke of heaven, and he will make your yoke heavy. He will bind you even more. Okay, that's another metaphysical side point. And since the trait of laton, of mockery, of scoffing, stems from the root, the midos of the soul, of the desiring soul and its yearning. Alkein amar v'leitin laton hamdu lahem. So you think chimud here is being used because it's an instinctual type of thing.
Chimud literally means what?
So chimud is coveting or desire, but it's like, I think like it's like a primal or instinctual or more animalistic desire than anything else. Like taiva is like, it could be a psychological desire that stems from the instincts, but chimud is like stronger than that. I don't know how to say it exactly. Yeah. All right. Brief side track here before we read on the Rabbeinu Yonah. Let's look at the pasuk that he quoted, which is on the next page. The next page. Yeah. So this is in 21:24. Zaid Yahir Leitz Shemo Otev Zadon. Is he there 24 at the bottom? Yeah. So the malicious, haughty one, Leitz is his name. Otev Zadon. He acts in the wrath of malice or maliciousness. Yeah. All right. So Zaid Yahir Leitz Shemo. Lechem Zaid Kol Achzarius. So this is a better portrait of the Leitz, in my opinion. Kol Achzarius Vesinas Abrios. Okay. So what does Zaid mean? It encompasses cruelty and hatred of people. Vasimcha la'edam, and joy at their misfortune, udrishas ra'atam, and seeking out their evil. So I guess, again, I don't know what the best English words to use here, but the Leitz is aggressive. He is somewhat sociopathic in the sense that he has no empathy. That's why it allows him to be cruel. He is, there's clearly a certain type of competitiveness that expresses itself in rejoicing when someone else suffers, you know? So that's, this is what I meant when I said that, like, I think Rabbeinu Yonah is talking about like a very, like let's say, like, I'm not plugging in Freud, but like let's say, you know, Freud held that there's basically like the sexual and the aggressive, like as the foundations. Like that's what he means, like shorashe midot nefesh, some basic primal, you know, aggression and instinct.
Yeah, so I guess I always thought of scoffing as like scoffing at like authority.
Yeah,
But
it's
this is
everyone.
not
He's saying it's everyone. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, it definitely will express itself in authority.
Yeah.
Okay, v'yahir. So what does arrogance mean? And so all of the stuff that we said so far is not even the arrogant part. Okay, that's just the aggression. But he's also yahir, who bal gaiva. He's egotistical, right? Ubir ha'inyan, and the explanation is the guy who has these two of these qualities in his soul. V'himazadon has yahirus, malice and arrogance. Leitshimo. He's a late. He a late kololaton. The late includes both of them. Who bal lashon hara. He is a habitual lashon hara speaker. V'hamis lotzates, and he mocks v'loig l'bnei adam, and he makes fun of people. Kihu hazadon hagomer, which is the ultimate act of zadon. Meaning that's the one act that allows him to get out his aggression and his haughtiness by putting other people down verbally. Because he yazik bilshono lachaverav v'yachlimim v'yacharpim v'yachlis kavodam. He hurts people with his speech. He hurts his fellow with his speech. I don't think it's like literally his friend, although he might do that also. He shames them and he degrades them and he lowers their esteem. V'lo l'revach v'hana, not for profit and hana here I think is like tangible benefit. Tangible enjoyment, meaning like obviously he's getting enjoyment out of this, but it means not for some sort of like exchange. Like it's not like he's going to
getting something out.
Right. It's not like he's in politics and he's going to mudsling as his opponent so he can get ahead in the polls. Okay. This is worse than someone who harms for monetary profit. If you combine this with arrogance and haughtiness, to the point where he intends to inflict blemishes on his friends, without any advantage over him. Okay, this is another thing. Due to the magnitude of his haughtiness, he will blemish and degrade virtues, meaning he'll even make fun of good qualities, not just like people, but virtues themselves. He does not see in his own self any one of these blemishes. If he were to pay attention to his own blemishes, he would be too ashamed to scorn and make fun of another person, right? So that's he's guilty of projection in that sense, right? That he makes fun of other people's bad qualities, but if he really saw himself and he saw that he has those same qualities, he wouldn't make fun of them, okay, I don't know if we hold that about snakes now, but Chazal say that the Baal Lashon Hara is like a snake that he harms without any benefit. Is this even true? I don't even know anymore. No, because Barry Lopez says that wolves will sometimes do stuff just for fun. But anyway, but he's worse than the lion or the wolf who will only attack when they get a benefit out of it, like to eat. And they mentioned about this that there's no advantage to the Baal Lashon. This is the Baal Lashon Hara, right? Yeah. Okay. In the interest of time, let's skip this last paragraph and go back to the original. Okay. Because I want to read this last. So on the first page, the last paragraph on the first page, he says, "Umidas ha-Pesi asher siflo chaluk v'deosav mishubashos." He is here to ehabu Pesi. So regarding the trait of the Pesi, whose intellect is weak and whose ideas are confused, it mentions that they love foolishness. V'ha'ahava hi habachira. Love is choice. Kmo kichein ahavtem b'nei Yisrael. Ahava lanua. Okay. Ki ha'pesayim bochorim darchei ha'pesayos umatim b'nafshosam lemor kihem darchei yosher. So that's another reiteration of what we said before. The Pesayim choose the ways of their naivete, and they err in their souls, saying that they are darchei yosher. So again, that's why I use the word love by Pesi, because the Pesi is drawn to the thing because he's convinced himself that it's actually good. So any bad choice he makes can be described as love because he's pursuing it as a good. The Leitz is, the Leitz also thinks it's good, but the Leitz is just driven instinctually. Like it's essentially, the Leitz's corruption is essentially it's a deeper thing. Yeah. It's not the Pesi you can reprogram by showing him that what he thinks is good is not actually good. The Leitz is like just addicted to this feeling of superiority and this aggression and
or like even if you showed him
Yeah.
he would resist. As
Exactly.
Pesi, if you showed him, he'd be like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's better.
Yeah.
I missed
The
that.
Pesi
Yeah.
is like miscalibrated.
Yeah.
The Leitz is like
Send his way.
yes,
Yeah.
like
And
programmed badly.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the other thing with the calibration is a good analogy here that you can get the Pesi back on track about a particular, and that doesn't mean that he's going to overcome his tithas instantaneously, but you keep rerouting him. The late does not even can't even be reached in that step. Yeah.
It's because the late has this extra like desire that makes the intrinsic.
So I think it's two things. I think one is the fact that you're going up against this foundational instinct, and the haughtiness makes him resistant to rebuke.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're going to be seeing in our pasuk, because it's saying that basically the only way you can affect the lates is to hit him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even clear in our pasuk if that's going to help the lates, but it might help the Pesi, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, can you show him that it's gonna harm
The lates or the Pesi?
Yeah, the lates.
The
Like,
lates.
If you showed him that this is gonna.
Yeah, this is what we did. In fact, I think I didn't actually include this. That was what we did with Trump. That there was a paragraph in the Rabbeinu Yonah. I think it's actually on the next page that I didn't copy, which maybe we can do tomorrow. Is that if you can, I believe Rabbeinu Yonah said that if you can show the lates the consequences of his actions, but in a way where you're not rebuking him, then he might be receptive to it. But once you rebuke him, he'll turn himself off to it because of his haughtiness. He doesn't want to be told what to do. So that's the only like route for the lates. Now that was the Trump thing, because the question was when he got COVID, if he suffered from the consequences of it, and then would that be enough to get him to realize that he has to like change things in the United States, you know, or not? And the answer was not. But yeah, but that was the question that we had posed. And then just one last line here, because stealing, which he spends a very short time on. And again, I'm not as impressed with the Rabbeinu Yonah's definition of ksil as with Leitz and Pesi, but maybe this is just his derech here. Ksilim himbali ha'pulos ha'raos. Ksilim are like, you know, habitually do bad actions. Ovrim averet lamalos mishalos einehem b'inyane hana'asam v'tanugehem. And they violate transgressions in order to fulfill what their eyes seek in matters of their enjoyment and pleasure. So it sounds like he's just learning ksil as like a pleasure seeker.
How is it different than the?
Well, the Pesi is not, first of all, Pesi is not Ba'ale Pa'ulos Raos. He hasn't become habituated to doing Averos.
Okay.
You know, it might be that he does a lot of Averos, but it's not a habit that he's attached to those actions, because if you just show him that these are not good for him, then it'd be easy for him to go back.
He's a goodness seeker. He's just. You know.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He's a goodness seeker, but he doesn't have a good idea of the good. Yeah.
Isn't everyone a goodness seeker?
So, I mean, I would say that, but yeah. Rabbeinu also, yeah, right. That's true. Yeah. So I guess we do have to differentiate. It's just a quantitative difference that the ksil has gone too far down the road, where he is like now addicted to these actions,
right?
And the Pesi is still in a state of potential where you can steer him on the right path. You know, or is there something about the way that the ksil relates to these actions that is qualitatively different from the Pesi?
Well, it could be he started off as a Pesi.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Yeah, is it that he started off as Pesi, or is it more similar to the late, where there's something more intrinsic going on? You know, I'm not sure about that.
Well, I'd say maybe the Pesi, maybe the ksil has an emotional attachment to the actions in a way that the Pesi does not. The Pesi wants these things.
Yeah.
Like he has the desire for them. And he, because of his desire, he starts to think that they are good. Yeah. But the ksil has like a feeling that they're good. Just like, yeah, I mean, just to give you an example that we could work with here is the example in the parak before this pasuk, or like above this pasuk, is you've got the gang members who are out there like stealing and killing, and they're trying to recruit the youth. So the gang members are the ksilim, and the Pesi is the one who they're preying upon. So these guys are already in the gangster lifestyle, you know, and the Pesi is someone who can be swayed to that, but he's not there yet. Let's think about it some more. And I think I'm pretty sure I am forgetting a paragraph from Rabbeinu Yonah. Tomorrow, let's aim to find that paragraph and read it, because I think that's where he talks about who Mishlei is for.
and then we'll try to understand our pasuk in light of that.
And also just to expound on that last thing you said
Yeah.
about the gangstas.
Yeah,
The Pesi would only be persuaded because of the fact that he is in like this fragile state
yeah,
of like, he can't necessarily discern between truth and falsehood,
Yeah.
and and he's able to kind of just like accept anything because
Yeah.
he doesn't have that like inner
yeah,
way of navigating,
Discerning, yeah.
navigating through things.
yeah,
So, as long as they pitch it to him in a way that he can be like, oh, well, it sounds okay.
yeah,
He'll just end up doing it and
Right.
not be able to realize how damaging it'll be.
yeah, exactly, and
That's really how it plays out.
yeah, and that's why the peer pressure of the Mishlei club, like this is what Rabbi Moskowitz calls Rabbeinu Yonah's Mishlei club, of like hanging out with Mishlei Chachamim, is a very good influence because he's going to be very influenced by his crowd. So if he's with the gangsters, he's going to live the gangster lifestyle, and if he's with Shlomo Melech and like his Kefra, then like he's going to be, that's going to keep him on a better track. Yeah. Right. Let's pause here for today. Think about it for tomorrow. And
Thank you.
thanks, David.